Hungarian Folk Tales. The king who did not want his daughter to marry. Once upon a time, there lived a king, a very rich king, in a castle. He had a beautiful daughter. He loved her so much that he did not want even to let her leave the castle, lest someone should take her from him. One day, however, the princess begged her father to let her walk out a little. He allowed her to do so, but not for long, so that no harm would come to her. As she was walking through the flowery meadow, she realized that a young man was approaching her. It was the son of the neighboring country's king. Both of them were so good-looking that they fell in love right away. They agreed that the prince would go home and set out at once to call on the girl's father and ask for her hand in marriage. The princess went home and told her father where she had walked and whom she had met. Her father grew terribly angry and nervous that someone might take away his precious daughter. He told his daughter that he'd rather put a curse on her forever than give her to the prince. He sent a messenger to the other king, telling him not to come and ask for the hand of his daughter. But if he still wished to come, he should do so with an army that could defeat him and take his castle. The prince had already set off to the king when the messenger arrived. The king gathered his soldiers and sent them with his son. The army set off. The other king's castle was high up on a hill from where they noticed the approaching army sent by the enemy king. The king called together all his men to defend the castle against the enemy. When the approaching army reached the hill, they sent a messenger to ask the king to give his daughter without further ado. The king sent back a message that he would not do so for anything in the world. They attacked the castle and laid siege to it. Then they noticed that there was no one on the inside fighting them. The lord of the castle said he did not wish his men to die, so anyone who wanted to leave was free to do so. When the army attacked the castle, all the men inside left through underground passages, leaving only the king and his daughter behind. The princess said she would not leave because she was so in love with the prince that there was nothing she wanted more than to be his wife. The father begged her in vain, but she would not leave. Then her father cast a spell on her, turning the princess into 3 types of animals. The spell could only be broken if a young man kissed the 3 animals in turn. Meanwhile, the enemy had managed to make its way into the castle. They searched for the princess but could not find her anywhere. The prince was desperate. He didn't know what to do. He let his men go home and asked them to tell his father that he would not go home until he managed to find the princess and take her with him. He looked for her high and low, but in vain. He went out of the castle and wandered in the forest. He sat down and was thinking what to do when an old woman approached him. "Dear prince," the old lady said, "I know what your problem is and I also know how to solve it." The old woman was no less than a witch. "Tell me, old lady, I'll give you anything in exchange, but I must know the answer." "The princess will come out of the castle every moonlit night. And whatever shape she comes in, rest assured it is her. You must kiss these creatures 3 times in a row, and then the spell on the princess will be broken." The prince, who was prepared to do anything, waited for nightfall in the hope of seeing the princess. As the moon came up in the sky, he saw a little bunny rabbit hopping in front of the castle. He took a few steps in its direction, but the bunny did not move. He embraced it and kissed it 3 times, and the bunny vanished. No sooner had it disappeared than a big lion walked through the gate of the castle. Although the prince got cold feet, he remembered the old woman's words, so he approached the lion, embraced it and kissed it 3 times, and the lion did him no harm. Then it disappeared too. Hardly had the lion gone when the prince saw the castle surrounded by flames. A 7-headed dragon emerged, spitting fire from all of its mouth and lighting up the nearby forest. The prince took fright. This surely can't be the princess. But the dragon approached him relentlessly, showing him the huge keys in its hands as if to spur him on and say, "Never fear, sweetheart." Then the prince went up to it, embraced it, and kissed it 3 times, upon which the dragon turned into the princess. They both rejoiced, and she gave him the keys. "Now I am yours, and with me all the wealth in this castle." They entered the castle, and she showed him all the riches. Luckily, there were 6 horses there, so they put them before a carriage and drove to the prince's father, the king. There they held their wedding right away, yet the bride did not seem very happy. The prince asked her what the problem was. "I can't be happy until my father is here beside me." The prince said to her, "Well, we'll find him somewhere." They didn't have to look for him for too long, as he was already on his way there. He learned that the prince had broken the spell cast on his daughter, so he came to see her. The old man was led to his daughter. They saw each other, embraced, and rejoiced upon finding each other at long last. The old man made his peace with his daughter, and the wedding feast went on and on and on. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Witch. Once upon a time, there lived an old man who had 3 sons. When all 3 were fully grown, they decided to marry and told their father of their wish. "Very well, but one at a time. I want you all to take a walk, and the one who returns with the prettiest flowers will be the first to marry." The 2 elder brothers did not even leave the village. Both of them had a sweetheart, so each of them brought a nice bunch of flowers back to their father. The youngest son, however, had no sweetheart, so he went out of the town to look for flowers. He walked and he walked until he eventually came to a vast forest, in the middle of which he came across an old palace surrounded by a flower garden. "Oh, if only I could pick flowers in this beautiful garden." The youngest son was still standing there when a witch appeared in the garden and asked him, "Why are you so sad, my child?" Then the young man told her what his problem was. "If all you need are flowers, come with me and I shall give you some." Then she took him into the garden and picked a bunch of beautiful flowers. As soon as the poor man caught sight of the flowers, he said to his eldest sons, "Well, sons, it will be your younger brother who will marry first, because he has returned with the best blossoms." But the elder brothers complained to their father so bitterly that he eventually agreed to set a second test. "Very well, the second test shall be he who brings back the prettiest kerchief shall be the one to marry first." So the sons went off, the 2 elder ones to their sweethearts in the village, and the youngest one to the witch in the forest. "What do you need this time, my child?" The youngest son told her, and so the old witch went back into the palace and brought the young man a beautiful gold-trimmed kerchief that bedazzled the boy. The 2 elder brothers also brought a kerchief each, but the youngest son's was by far the loveliest of the lot. The elder brothers were very upset, and so their father eventually agreed to set a 3rd test. "Very well, go and bring me your sweethearts. He who brings me the loveliest girl shall be the one to marry first." This was easy for the 2 elder brothers, because they both had sweethearts in the village. But where, oh where, should the youngest brother look for a bride? Who could he take to his father? Should he fetch the old witch who had given him the flowers and the kerchief? So the youngest son set off with his head hung low. He walked into the forest, stopped in front of the palace, and leaned against the fence with a face as sad as the autumn rain. "What's the matter with you, my child?" "Oh, don't even ask me what the matter is." My father told us that the son who took the prettiest sweetheart home would be the first to marry. Don't hang your head, my child, but come with me to the palace. Here's a fireplace, make a fire. With every flame that flickers up, a witch will appear before your eyes. Fear not and stand bravely there until you see the last and ugliest witch of all that will have a bunch of keys between her teeth. Then you need to snatch the keys, otherwise the rest of the witches will tear you apart. And now the rest is up to you. Saying nothing more, the old witch vanished. The young man made a fire in the fireplace, and as the flames began to grow and crackle, a witch emerged from the flames. The youngest son was so afraid that a shiver of fright ran down his spine. Then a second flame leapt forth, producing a second witch. Then many more witches followed this one. Eventually, the last witch appeared with a bunch of keys between her teeth. The youngest son gathered all his courage and snatched the keys, and, wonder of wonders, the ugly witch turned into a beautiful princess. The youngest son was too surprised to speak. All the witches then vanished from the room and were replaced by a throng of graceful maidens. Then the pretty princess said, "You must be very surprised. I'll have you know that I was the old witch who gave you the flowers and the kerchief. You must have been sent here by God, because I was a princess and a spell was cast on me. Had you not appeared, I would have remained an old witch, and now we shall be together for the rest of our natural days." The poor man was in good spirits and said, "Very well, I will let my elder sons marry too." And that they did, and their younger brother gave them each a house with plenty of land. Then the youngest and most fortunate son took his bride back to the palace, where they lived happily ever after. Hungarian Folk Tales. Cinderella. Once upon a time, there lived a poor man, and he had a daughter. Next door there lived a widow who had 2 daughters. The widow wanted the man to marry her, so she sent word to him that if he married her, she would treat his daughter like her own. The poor man thought very hard for a long time and finally made up his mind to marry the widow. The stepmother always treated her stepdaughter like dirt and never went out of her way to cause her sorrow and pain. When Sunday came, the widow and her 2 daughters prepared to go to church. The stepmother said to Cinderella, "Here, while we're away at church, pick out the peas from the ashes, cook them, and serve them." The stepmother and her 2 daughters went off to church, and Cinderella was left behind. And she was about to begin to pick the peas out of the ashes when a flock of doves flew in through the window. They dropped 3 nuts and set about separating the peas from the ashes. The 3 nuts were sent by Cinderella's mother. While the doves were picking out the peas, God descended and ordered the girl to go to church, but to leave when the priest raised the sacraments. Cinderella donned the silver dress and had a look at her reflection in the well before she left. When she saw herself, she was so pleased with what she saw that she almost fell into the well. The service was attended by the prince too. As soon as he caught a glimpse of Cinderella, his heart was captured. He couldn't take his eyes off her. But when the priest raised the sacraments, Cinderella left the church. The prince followed her right away, but the girl vanished into thin air, and the prince could see no trace of her anywhere. Back at home, the girl took off her dress. The food was ready because God had prepared it for her. The stepmother came home with her 2 daughters. "You'll never guess what we saw at church. There's no one as beautiful as that girl in the whole wide world." Then they told her what they had seen. "I saw it too." "How come?" "From the mulberry tree." That was all the stepmother needed. She immediately had the mulberry tree cut down. The next Sunday, she mixed the lentils into the ashes and ordered Cinderella to separate the lentils from the ashes, then to cook them and serve them. The 3 women left her alone again. Then God descended with his angels and ordered them to do Cinderella's chores. He told the girl to get ready and do the same as she had done the Sunday before. This time, Cinderella donned the golden dress. As she was setting off, she looked in the well and was enchanted by what she saw there. The prince was already expecting her. When the priest raised the sacraments, Cinderella left the mass. She vanished into thin air again. When Cinderella arrived home again, all the food was ready because God had prepared it all. "You'll never believe what we saw. I saw it too, from the top of the well." The stepmother had it cut down at once. The 3rd Sunday, the stepmother mixed flour into the ashes for Cinderella to separate. It was God again that did the job for her, and Cinderella donned the diamond dress and went off to Mass. But not without looking in the well first. She couldn't believe her eyes, she was so dazzling. When the priest raised the sacraments, she got up to leave. But the prince had had the threshold of the church covered in glue, so one of her shoes got stuck. The prince picked up the shoe and set off on horseback to look for its owner. At home, the stepmother's 2 daughters were again boasting of what they had seen. Again, Cinderella told them that she had seen it from the roof of the house. Upon that, the mother had the roof of the house demolished. The prince went through the whole village. He had all the young maidens in every house try on the shoe, but it did not fit any of them. When he reached the stepmother's house, Cinderella was made to hide under the washtub while they waited for the prince. The girls tried on the shoe, but it did not fit either of them, despite their mother having carved bits off their ankles. Then all of a sudden, the cockerel began to crow in the yard. "The pretty girl is under the washtub! The pretty girl is under the washtub!" The stepmother heard this and began to chase the cockerel, but the prince heard it too. The pretty girl was indeed under the washtub. She tried on the shoe, which fitted her perfectly. Then the prince said to Cinderella, "Love of my life, I'm yours and you're mine forever and a day." This time it was the stepmother's 2 daughters who were left behind. And this is the end of my tale. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Golden Lamb. Once upon a time, there lived a poor man and his son. When the boy grew up, his father sent him away to work and earn some money. Off he went and searched for a place where he could work until he finally found a farmer who hired him as a shepherd for his sheep. The next day, his new master handed him a flute and sent him out with a flock to see if he knew what to do. Unlike the other lazy shepherds, the young lad never rested for a minute and herded the sheep and played the flute all day long. Among the sheep was a lamb with a golden fleece. Whenever the young lad played his flute, it began to dance. The boy grew to like the lamb so much, he decided to ask for the golden lamb instead of wages. As night fell, he took the flock home, the farmer stood waiting for him at the gate, and when he saw that none of his precious sheep had gone astray and all had eaten well, he was a happy man indeed. The boy and his master began to debate his wages. The lad said he would like the golden lamb. The master liked the little animal very much, but eventually agreed to let the boy have it because he was willing to work very hard. A whole year passed by. The boy worked well for his master and was given the lamb as his prize. He set off home, but it began to get dark just as he walked into a village. The shepherd boy eventually sought shelter with a farmer who had a daughter who fell so in love with the golden lamb that she decided to steal the animal for herself. It was nearly midnight by the time the girl got her hands on the lamb, but as soon as she touched it, her hands stuck to its golden fleece. The boy woke the next morning and saw the young girl with her hands stuck to the lamb. He did not want to leave the lamb behind, so off he set with the lamb and the girl with her hands stuck to its golden fleece. The three of them danced until they reached the third neighbour's house, where a woman poked her head out and saw the young girl dancing and prancing with the lamb. She rushed outside with her oven shovel and shouted, "Get back home with you and stop making such a scene." The woman smacked her with the shovel. "I said to do as you were told." But the girl carried on dancing, so the woman hit her with her shovel, but it stuck to her behind, with the woman on the other end. The lamb pulled them both through the village, all the way to the church. The lamb started to dance with the girl stuck to its fleece, who had the shovel stuck to her behind, and the woman on the end. The priest was just returning from the church and scolded them bitterly for making such a scene, but to no avail. The priest took his stick and struck the woman's behind with it, and was surprised to see that his stick stuck to the woman's fat bottom and he was glued to the other end. The boy continued to trail them through the village, where a soldier passed with his horse. He touched the priest and got stuck too. Then a weaver came out with a roll of linen. He smacked the horse's flank, and the linen stuck to it in an instant. Then a cobbler appeared with his hands full of boots. He hit the weaver and cried, "What are you staring at?" And he too now was stuck to the procession. The boy blew on his flute, and the lamb went on dancing with the girl stuck to its behind, the shovel stuck to her bottom, the woman to the handle of the shovel, the stick to her bottom, with the priest stuck to the other end, followed by the soldier leading the horse, with the linen stuck to its flank, the weaver stuck to the linen, with the boots on his back, and the cobbler at the very end. And the boy just went on marching with his peculiar parade until he reached a town where everyone was in mourning. The houses and palaces were all covered in black, and the men and women were walking about in black clothes. At the edge of the town, the boy began talking to an old woman and asked her what had happened. The old woman sadly told him that the daughter of the king was seriously ill, and no medicine was strong enough to cure her. The doctors all said that if someone could make her laugh, she would soon be cured, but no one had managed to do it yet. The king declared that anyone who could make his darling daughter laugh could marry her and receive half of his kingdom as a gift of thanks. Of course, there were many people who all wanted to try their luck, princes, counts, and acrobats, from all kinds of nations and nationalities, but no one succeeded. No matter how hard they tried, the princess never even smiled, and they all ended up with their heads impaled on a pole. The next morning, the boy announced that he intended to make the princess laugh. The king was happy to hear the news and asked his daughter to stand outside. The young shepherd began to play his flute. The golden lamb went on dancing with the girl stuck to its fleece, with the shovel on her behind, and the woman stuck to the shovel, the stick on her fat bottom, with the priest stuck to the other end, followed by the soldier with his horse, with the linen stuck to its flank, the weaver stuck to the linen, with boots on his back, and the cobbler at the end of the line. When the princess saw this, she burst out laughing, and that made the golden lamb so happy that it shook everything and everyone off and began to dance alone. And then the girl began to dance, and then the woman, and then the priest, and then the soldier with his horse, and then the weaver, and even the cobbler. The king happily gave his blessing for the shepherd boy to marry his daughter. He gave the weaver and the cobbler royal warrants. He made the soldier his general and the priest his royal cardinal. The woman was promoted to royal baker and the girl became the princess's maid. The wedding feast went on for a week and a day, and the whole kingdom celebrated the bride and groom. If the violin strings hadn't snapped, they would all still be dancing. Hungarian Folk Tales. The Slipper-Tearing Princesses. Once upon a time, there lived a king who had 3 daughters. Each of them wore and tore 12 pairs of slippers every single night. Finally, the king could not supply them any longer with footwear, so he issued a declaration across the land. He declared that anyone who could tell him where his daughters wore out their slippers every night would receive a very attractive payment as reward. The king had a young lad who worked as a shepherd. As he was grazing his flock of sheep one day, he suddenly decided to visit the royal palace. When he arrived, he told the king his reasons for coming. "Your Majesty, I shall find out where your daughters go every night." "All right, go ahead, and if you are successful, you'll get a rich reward." The king sent the shepherd boy to sleep in the same room where his daughters slept. The lad lay down on the floor with his bag and stick and pretended to be asleep. It was around midnight when he saw an old witch fly in through the window. She produced some kind of cream or ointment which the princesses rubbed on their knees and arms. As soon as they were done, they all hopped on a broom, took all their slippers and flew out of the window. The shepherd boy watched carefully, and finally he rubbed the ointment on himself and his stick. As soon as he was done, he whooshed right after the princesses, never letting them out of his sight. It wasn't long before the girls reached a silver forest, where they all settled down to rest. In the middle of the forest there was a silver well, with 3 silver goblets standing right next to it. The 3 princesses each had a sip of water. When they were finished, the shepherd boy collected their silver goblets and put them in his bag. He even broke off a silver twig from one of the trees. The twig rang out loud when he snapped it from the branch. The small princess was very frightened. "Why are you so scared, silly? Nobody can follow us here." So after a while, they all got on their broomsticks and flew off. They finally reached the middle of the golden forest. There was a well made of gold with 3 golden goblets standing right next to it. Each girl took a sip of water. The lad even broke a golden twig from one of the trees. The twig rang out loud when it snapped from the branch. The smallest prince was very frightened. "Don't be such a coward. There's nobody here. Who could it be anyway?" They flew off, but the shepherd was still following them. They soon arrived at the diamond forest, where there was a well made of diamonds with diamond goblets on the side. When the princesses all had their fill, the shepherd collected the goblets, broke a diamond twig, the twig rang out loud, and the smallest princess was very frightened. "Stop being scared all the time. There's nobody following us." They got on their brooms and continued their flight. Suddenly a huge gate opened up before them from somewhere below the ground. Inside there were 12 young he-devils waiting for them, and there was music playing from the attic. The shepherd boy quickly hid beneath the table, and he kept a close watch on everything. The he-devils and the girls started to dance. As the shepherd was watching a bit more closely, he noticed that the floor of the room was covered in razor blades. It was no wonder that the slippers of the princesses were worn and torn, since they were all dancing on the razor's edges. When one was torn to shreds, they just threw it away and put on a new one. When the 12 pairs of shoes were all danced to shreds, they sat down at the table. They all had a golden spoon and a fork to eat with. When one of them dropped her golden spoon, the shepherd boy quickly picked it up and put it into his bag. The other princess dropped her golden fork, and the shepherd boy picked it up and put it into his bag as well. When the girls were finally satisfied, they all hurried back home. But this time the shepherd boy flew faster because he wanted to get home first. By the time the princesses reached the royal palace, the shepherd boy was finally laying in front of their beds, pretending to be fast asleep. "He never even moved," the girls said. "Look, he's fast asleep." Morning came and the shepherd went to see the king. The king asked him, "Well, son, have you seen anything? Have you found out anything?" "I have, your majesty. I have seen things and I have found out things." At that point in time, the king summoned his 3 daughters and the shepherd started to speak. First they went to a silver forest, and here is the evidence. He produced the silver goblets and the silver twig. Then they flew on to the golden forest, where they drank from their golden goblets. With that, he pulled the golden goblets and the golden twig from his bag. From there, they flew on to the diamond forest, where they drank another cup. Finally, they stopped in a palace where they danced with devils, and that's how they wore and tore all their slippers. In the meantime, they ate and drank too. One of them dropped her spoon, the other her fork. And here is the evidence, your majesty. Well done, son. The king ordered that the 2 elder daughters be locked up in the tower each night, gave his blessings to the youngest one, who married the shepherd boy. And that is how the slipper tearing came to an end.